Anyone ripe to pull off the upset? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt. I am your host, Dave Schultz. There we go. Today's episode of Locked On Sunbelt is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Special thanks for everyone who is continuing to subscribe and view. We are growing as a channel, so please tell your friends, share, like, all that stuff when you see it on social media. Let's talk about the matchups. Is anybody ripe for the upset? Because two of the three best teams in the league are huge favorites at home. Marshall hosting ULM. Marshall is a 15.5-point favorite. Good luck to Monroe. All right. If I'm Marshall, and they know this because they went to overtime against Arkansas State, they're certainly not going to take Monroe lightly. But as we talked in yesterday's episode about home court, and Marshall is, drawing huge crowds. It's a huge turnaround. 15.5 might be a lot against Monroe, but I would expect Marshall to win. Let's see here. Monroe took it on the chin to Troy. That was a good 24-point loss. But they beat Georgia Southern. They beat Texas State. Lost to the Cajuns by 13. And they lost to Southern Miss by 5. So they are not getting blown out a whole heck of a lot, although Troy was on the road, but they beat a good Georgia Southern team on the road in Statesboro. So I would figure Marshall will win, and it's going to be close to that cover line, but I would not take Monroe lightly at all if I am Marshall. All right, elsewhere, you do have Southern Miss, the two of the three big teams at home. They are a 13-point favorite at home against Arkansas State. Again, if you're Southern Miss and you're sitting there 17-4, 6-2, you're on a bit of a roll. You're probably going to have a huge crowd, and in comes, sorry to say it, lowly Arkansas State, 9-12. Overall, 1-7, last place in the conference. Again, don't take them lightly, and you would think that Jay Ladner would show them the overtime ball game against Marshall, where they almost blew it. Marshall almost blew it. They couldn't get the ball in bounds, and Arkansas State tied the ball game up to force overtime. And so you would think that that's what Jay Ladner would do, and you would expect another good crowd. All these games are 7 p.m. local time, except App State. We'll get to that a little bit later. Some obviously played in Eastern time zone, but that's 6:30. But all the other ones are either 7 local time, whether they be in the Eastern time zone or the Central time zone. But I would expect Southern Miss to win that ball game. That one they may be going away. All right. I don't think they'll take Arkansas State lightly for the reasons I just gave. But I think Southern Miss, Arkansas State will be jacked up by the crowd as well. Sometimes that works, that way as well. When they are, when the big crowd is there, all the players get excited to play in front of a big crowd. But I would expect Southern Miss to pull away. The other one, which they're not a huge favorite, this may be the best game of the night in the Sun Belt on Thursday night. Cajuns hosting Troy. Cajuns a 5-point favorite over Troy. And again, Troy's played well as of late. I think they got a loss. We talked about it. They actually had a couple of losses at App State and against James Madison. But they righted the ship against Monroe. They have won 5 of 7 since losing to Southern Miss and Mercer about 5 weeks ago. They reeled off wins against Texas State, Old Dominion, Arkansas State, Georgia State, and App State. Think that James Madison, they lost to App State in lovely Boone, North Carolina. But maybe not that big of a surprise, but they're probably disappointed about losing to James Madison by 2. James Madison leads the league in scoring, and they lost 89-87. It's a good matchup. Again, we mentioned it yesterday. Scott Cross, a longtime coach at UTA, now coaching at Troy. I believe he's in his third season at Troy, and it's a great addition to the school and to the athletic program, and it should be a pretty good ball game. Troy they're right below in terms of wins overall. They're right below the Cajuns with 13. Cajuns have 16, and they are in that group tied for second in the conference at 5-3, along with Georgia Southern and Monroe, right behind Marshall, Southern Miss, and the Cajuns at 6-2. So that will probably be, I'm going to guess, the best game of the night. That's what I think. I'm not sure. If anybody has a chance to pull off the upset, it would be Troy, but I'm probably going to go with the favorite there and the Cajuns. Cajuns they've been playing, I think they've been kind of been playing win and move on. We mentioned they did beat the ULM by 13. They have won 6 in a row. Remember, they lost their 2 first games in the conference on the road, Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion. They're running the longest winning streak in the conference right now, but they beat Texas State. Texas State, Mason Harrell didn't play. Try to read up on it. What's wrong with him? Couldn't find anything. So I'm not sure if he's going to be playing this week yet, but they didn't, they struggled against Texas State, winning by 9 with no Mason Harrell. They struggled on the road against Arkansas State, winning by 9. They struggled against South Alabama in a game that South Alabama could have won here in Mobile. They beat them by 3. Again, on the road, any win is a good one, but they are getting a lot of win and move on. They did take down Monroe by 13. That's a nice win. Georgia State struggles on the road, and they only beat them by 8 at home in the Cajun Dome. They did do a number on Southern Miss. That's probably their most impressive win this year. They're first in the Sun Belt, 75-61. We did, in yesterday's episode, one of the comments I put in there, maybe the only comment, is I would rank the teams right now, Marshall, Cajuns, Southern Miss. And let's get into the second segment when we do the rest of the ball game. So we did the 3 big ball games so far on Thursday, and I think the favorites will all win, but look for that Cajuns-Troy ball game to be the closest of the 3. Now, of course, it'll probably be the biggest blowout, but it'll probably be the closest of the 3 because Bob Marlin and Scott Cross have been coaching against each other for a long time. I know they respect each other, and it usually tends to be a very good ball game. All right, let's take a timeout. Let me tell you about our new sponsor, FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here. It's championship weekend, right? We got AFC and NFC championship games this weekend, and we're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number 1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to the point spreads to the player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The Chiefs are underdogs at home. Are they begging you to bet on the Chiefs? They're begging you to bet on the Chiefs. I'm just saying. It seems like that's an obvious bet. They are begging you to bet on the Chiefs. All right. More college basketball here. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. It's Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's go through the rest of the schedule. We'll talk about how I rank the 3 teams in the final segment. That's a good idea on the way to finish the episode. South Alabama is hosting Old Dominion. I had Pat Greenwood from South Alabama. He does ESPN2 for the Jaguars on TV, or ESPN Plus, I should say. Sorry about that. And unfortunately for South Alabama, they have played their 3 best ball games, and they've all been losses their last 3 games, right? They could have beaten the Cajuns. They could have beaten Southern Miss, And they very well could have beaten Coastal Carolina, but as Pat pointed out, they fall behind each and every ball game. It takes all their energy to come back, and they have issues finishing it off. Also, they get like two guys at one time, like Isaiah Moore and Kevin Samuel will be doing the scoring, but they kind of need like 3 or 4 guys at one time. And it is imperative that Greg Parham, the second, find his shot. It just has not been there. It has been over a month since he's had more than one three-pointer in a ball game. They need that desperately. Jamar Franklin is coming on, the freshman. He's playing well. Owen White doing a little bit more. He's just to shoot it. He just doesn't shoot it at all. It's very odd. He'll go the whole game like 1 for 2 or 1 for 1 or 2 for 5. You know, let's put some shots up there, Owen, and see what happens. Kevin Samuel's a double-double, but he does struggle at the free throw line, and that's been hurting the Jaguars late in games. South Alabama, again, taking out Old Dominion. Jags favored by 2.5. I would expect that to be a close ball game. App State hosting Georgia State. App State is a 6.5-point favorite. The thing is, though, Georgia State is, well, bad on the road. They are not very good on the road at all. And we'll see what happens here. It is ugly when it comes to games on the road for Georgia State. They lost last time out to Georgia Southern. They've lost to Old Dominion. Now, they beat Coastal Carolina 100-66 at home. All right? 100-66 at home. They did lose to Troy at home. Troy's good. They lost to the Cajuns. Played well, though, 78-70 on the road. They lost to Monroe. Lost by 8 on the road to Monroe. They did beat South Alabama at home. They lost to James Madison at home. And let's see, they played Auburn. They lost to Northeastern. They have that was the first one. All right, so they hadn't played. So do they have a win on the road? I don't know if they have a win on the road. Let me see. It doesn't. Let me go to their website because it does not appear they have one on the road this year. So that is tough to do. So they are not the best of all road teams at all. And App State, I think, is pretty good at home. So we're going to look for App State to probably win that ball game. So I would look for that to be the case. All right, let's move on. More action this week. We talked about Marshall beating or hosting Monroe. James Madison is 6-2 at home. They're taking on Coastal Carolina. Isam Mustafa had a huge ball game. The center, at least he started out that way, against South Alabama. I think it was like 7 for 7, although I guess he finished 8 for 16. And including a free throw, hit his first 8 shots in that ball game. And that got Coastal Carolina out to a big lead. James Madison, 6-2 at home. Over-under is 151. You may look at that over as these two teams will put up some points tomorrow. Coastal, though, struggles on the road, as most teams do. They are 3-6. JMU, pretty big spread there. 12.5-point favorites over the Chanticleers. All right, in Texas State, I'm going to guess it is without Mason Harrell again. I, looked into it, tried to look into it, tried to find out what is ailing the Bobcats' leading scorer. Has missed the last game and a half, and we will see if he returns for Thursday night's action. Georgia Southern going into San Marcos. No one's going to take Texas State lightly. They play that slow down offense and play amazing defense. And if you're Georgia Southern, you'd rather it not come down to 1 or 2 possessions, but it usually does with Texas State. Texas State is favored at home by 2.5. I'm going to take Georgia Southern now with the road upset. I'm going to take Georgia Southern with the road upset. All right, let's come back. I'm going to rank my top 3 teams. I don't know if it's going to surprise anybody because it's kind of already played out on the court so far. All right. Again, special thanks for tuning in. Special thanks for subscribing. Please, if you see it on Facebook, like the post, share the post. It's a big help. Spread the word. We are just getting started. Baseball is coming up. Softball is coming up. We will continue to do that. A lot of the lockdowns only focus on football, and I'm going to try and spread it out for basketball and baseball and softball when appropriate. Again, you can find me at SchulzeCast on Twitter. All right. But we do appreciate everybody who's been watching, everybody who's been commenting. Please, I will respond to the comments. If you have any comments, any suggestions, glad to hear them from you. All right. So we've been talking about the best player in the conference. We had Jordan Brown, Tavian Kinsey, and Austin Crowley as maybe the three best players in the league. And who's the best team in the league? Well, Marshall hasn't played the Cajuns. That's coming up. But Southern Miss has lost to both the Cajuns and Marshall. So they can't be ahead of them, although they have one more win overall than the Cajuns. So I would put Marshall right now as the best team. I'll put the Ragin Cajuns after them, and then I'll put Southern Miss third in those situations. Then you probably have, if you want to keep on going, we can keep on going for the most part. I would probably put Troy after that. They're fourth. Then Georgia Southern. We'll see about Monroe. I think it's a great story. Monroe is a fantastic story. They are right behind Marshall and Southern Miss in terms of, what it could mean and the storyline for their season. They have a little bit of a tough road. I think they got both 2 road games this week. We're going to find out a little bit more about them. They're going to Marshall and James Madison, so that's a big-time road trip. First time they're playing either school over there. Certainly in Sun Belt play. They do get 3 games at home after that. But see if they can win one of these 2 ball games. See if they can somehow shock the Thundering Herd, and they'd be a surprise to James Madison as well. So it'll be interesting to see what Keith Richard's kids can do on the road. So I might put James Madison ahead of Monroe, and then Texas State is really tough. They're tough with or without Mason Harrell. They are obviously tougher with Mason Harrell, but if he's not going to play, they seem to be doing just enough to keep games close. And then you just have these teams. South Alabama is talented, but they can't get more than 2 players to play well at the same time. And Arkansas State is battling. You got to give them credit. Arkansas State is battling, but they are struggling on the bottom. And Jonas Hayes trying to start something new at Georgia State and is struggling with the Panthers. So, and we have not seen Old Dominion, although we will see them tonight taking on South Alabama. So that'll be the first time I will see Old Dominion. But we've seen Marshall play. We've seen Southern Miss play. Saw the Cajuns play. I guess I haven't seen Troy play yet. Seen a little bit of Georgia Southern, I guess. And they beat the Jags. Have not seen Monroe play. Haven't seen James Madison play, or App State for that fact, doesn't matter. So haven't seen some of these teams play, and we're looking forward to seeing Old Dominion, Jeff Jones, a former Virginia coach and player, coming to town. All right. Again, thanks so much. We will recap tonight's games for tomorrow's episodes. And again, for Senior Bowl week, busy with the Senior Bowl. Hope to have some special interviews. Again, Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, hopefully will join us. G.J. Kinney of Texas State, hopefully will join us. Trying to get John Hartwell, who is up for the ULM AD job, see if he will join us. Although, he's interviewing for a job, so we'll see if he's doing any interviews at that point in time. And Kane Womack of South Alabama. It would be great if I could get those 4 guys to help me out for next week's shows. And maybe we'll do like a special quick recap of the basketball games based on evening's activities after official work is done. So again, thanks so much. We're going to have a blast for the Senior Bowl. If you're thinking about coming to Mobile, you should absolutely do it. I think we got like a half a dozen Sun Belters in there, right? We got 2 from App State, 1 for Old Dominion, 2 from Troy. That's 5. And we got 2 from South Alabama. That's 7. So we have plenty of people representing the Sun Belt in the Senior Bowl. So we're looking forward to that as well. Again, thanks very much for tuning in. I'll ask you again, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All you got to do is search Locked On Sun Belt. It is appreciative in the certain places, please rate and review. And I'm happy to reply to any comments that you have. Once again, I'm your host, Dave Schultz, and you've been listening and watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.